Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing an art journal with me video. So to get started, I'm taking some orange and yellow paint and just applying it to my newest art journal. Now I'm going to be squishing the pages together just to get it evenly distributed on both pages. And I'm spraying both sides with a little bit of water so it kind of lets the acrylic paint slide around a little bit easier. And today I'm not working on a gessoed surface, so it's just straight paper and paint. So once I've blended out each color individually, I'm going to work on blending them together. So after I've given the pages a good dry, I'm taking some of this vintage wrapping paper and I'm going to be ripping it up so I can do a little bit of a collage. I'm just ripping kind of randomly, and whatever shape kind of forms is the shape I'm going to use to collage. I absolutely love working with vintage materials in my art journal, but they're not always the most cooperative pieces. As you can see, the second time I tried to rip the piece, almost half of it completely came off, but it ended up working well in the end. So here I'm just taking some of my homemade gel medium to stick this down in my journal. And these pieces of wrapping paper were actually pretty thick, so it took quite a bit of work to get these stuck down pretty well. You can see me going in with my finger to help kind of smooth out wrinkles and just to help get the edges stuck down really well. So now I'm going back in with my yellow and orange paints just to tie everything back in together. And I'm going to be doing the exact same process as I did the first time. So apply the paint, squish the pages together. Now I'm going to spray with water, drop the bottle again, and then blend out one color at a time before blending the two colors together. Now you might be able to tell that I added a little bit too much paint, so an easy way to fix a problem like this is to take a baby wipe and kind of, in a circular motion, wipe off a little bit of the paint. And this will also help you blend the colors in together. So after a quick dry, I decided to grab some stamps to add into the background. I chose a script stamp and a grungy texture stamp, and I'm going to be using a brown ink for this. And I'm not looking for a perfect impression of these stamps. I do some second generation stamping, as you can see, so it really doesn't have to be perfect. I just kind of want something in the background to add a little bit of interest. And if you do something on one page, it's usually a good idea to do something on the other page that's the same thing. It just makes everything look uniform and adds a nice touch, I guess. Now I'm just taking whatever ink is wet and smearing it around to make it a little less perfect. Now I'm just taking little pieces of the stamp that's the grungy texture and stamping it randomly over both pages. Here I'm taking the stamp pad and running it around the outside of the pages just to darken them up a little bit and to make them look a little more worn and old. You can see I got a lot of ink on that side, but I wasn't too worried about that. I actually kind of liked that effect, and I tried to achieve it a little bit more, as you can see there. Now I'm taking my big brush marker, the brown one, and I'm just going in the corners and smudging that out. Because I added the acrylic paint, it made my journal a non-porous surface, so while the ink is still wet, it is able to be smeared and smudged around without drying into the paper immediately. So, ta-da! These are my focal points. Editing magic. So all I'm doing is fussy cutting both of these images out to use as the focal point of my art journal today. So I have a butterfly and a woman from a magazine article. So at this point, I don't really have an idea of what quote I want to use. I've been really into butterflies lately, so that's why I kind of gravitated towards butterflies and using butterfly wings and butterfly quotes. And I always love to use images of women in power and, you know, just empowering women quotes and things like that in my art journals, and just positive things. So that's why I chose the woman today. And here I'm just taking my X-Acto knife and just cutting her out really roughly, getting white spaces in there. I'm really not taking too much time doing this at all. I'm doing it very, very fast, although it looks really quick here in the video. So once I had the images cut out, I started playing with the placement in my art journal, about approximately where I wanted to put them. And once I had a spot that I figured that I would like them, I took a pencil and traced approximately where I was going to place them on the page. That way I knew where to put the gel medium, so I wouldn't waste any. This is a great tip if your gel medium likes to dry very quickly on you. I know mine does, especially because mine's homemade, so, you know, that's always a little bit of a struggle. So I'm first taking my butterfly and sticking that down first. Now I'm taking some more gel medium and sticking down the main figure. Making sure that I press wherever the image is touching the corner or the bend of the book, making sure that's stuck down really, really well into the crease. You can see me taking a card here and pushing that image way down into the fold of the book. That way when I go to close the book and open it again, it's going to bend with the pages and it won't unstick over time. So now I'm taking my big brush marker in brown again, and I'm going to add some shadow underneath my image. It's not wanting to blend for some reason, so I'm taking a paintbrush with just the tiniest little bit of water to help kind of move around and blend it. I'm thinking it's not wanting to react very well with my gel medium because it is homemade. So I'm just doing that on both sides of the butterfly wings, and I will also do this for the feet of my little lady there. I think this just helps to tie in whatever you're adding in on top of the book. That way it doesn't look so cut and pasted. It helps ground the figure. Now I'm just taking a dark brown acrylic craft paint and a fan brush with a little bit of water, and I'm going to add some splatters to my page. I start off doing it pretty heavily in the corner. I'm adding a little binder clip to hold the page in place for me. And what I ended up doing was, when I was adding the splatters, it looked a little too heavy for me, so I'm taking my baby wipe and just lifting off some of that paint. So it still leaves the impression of the splatter, but it just looks a little more faded, and it's not so intense. This is a really nice way to add another layer into your art journal without having to put so much effort into it. I do it in almost every single one of my layouts. Now I'm just looking up a quote, and I found one, so I'm just writing it on the scrap piece of paper so I know how to lay it out in my art journal. I'm just drawing some lines here, some guidelines, so I can write out my quote. I normally don't write out my quotes because I hate my handwriting, it's atrocious. But I'm going to be taking a typography class in the next 1 or 2 semesters at my college, so I figured I might as well start practicing. Plus, it's always good to step out of your comfort zone every once in a while. Plus, it didn't end up looking all that horrible, so I'm kind of proud of myself. And it's always a good idea when you're doing quotes to start off in pencil before moving on to pen. And I'm going to be using the big brush marker again to do this. That way it still is in the same color scheme, and it helps tie in and keep the page uniform or unified. And today's quote is, "Life isn't about finding yourself, it's about creating yourself." And I just thought that was really fitting with our main focal point, and I thought that was a really nice quote. Plus it relates to my life personally. So now all I'm doing is taking a white gel pen and just adding little highlights on all of the letters. I think that this just helps the letters kind of pop out of the page a little bit more, and they look a little less one-dimensional. Kind of gives it another level of dimension, which I find really appealing. Now I'm just taking a shelf liner and my big brush pen again and adding some texture into the background. I thought it needed something else that was that darker brown to tie the text in. So I added this in the corners and in any empty open space that I could find. And here's the finished art journal. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button and subscribe.